Am I the antagonist for canceling a MLM membership my mother-in-law signed me up for without my consent? My 30-year-old female mother-in-law, who is 65 years old, signed me up for her multi-level marketing MLM company without my consent today. My mother-in-law hasn't been talking to my 31-year-old husband for a couple of months now due to a disagreement related to horror movies and religion. After that, she stopped talking to him. My 38-year-old brother-in-law was forced to choose between my husband or his mom when there were birthday celebrations or dinners. Often he would choose my mother-in-law because he wants his kids to spend as much time with her as possible. That left my husband and me out of family gatherings. This weekend is his birthday, and he wanted to eat out with the rest of the family, so he decided to reach out to his mom to clear the air. He invited her to a birthday lunch with my brother-in-law's family as well. She said she'll go under one condition. He has to attend a seminar and sign up as her downline for her MLM company. Wanting to keep the peace, he agreed under the condition that I will not be involved. I didn't want any part in the MLM company. My mother-in-law reassured that it's no problem that I don't want to join as long as my husband joins. Today was the seminar. My husband went to the MLM office with my mother-in-law. She also gave him a birthday present, 80 bottles of juices from the MLM company. He got sad, not because he wanted any birthday present, but because it seemed like she was just trying to get rid of them and disguised it as a birthday present. Because of that, he just decided to cancel the birthday lunch the next day. He still planned to sign up for the MLM just to keep his mom happy. She gave him cash, around 100K PHP, and told him to sign up a distributor. Then she gave him more cash and told him to add me as his downline. He resisted, but she persisted and eventually signed me up. I received a welcome email from the company. I was upset because they still signed me up even though we agreed not to. I took the matter into my own hands. I called the hotline to cancel my membership. They said they will process it and call me back. They called my mother-in-law while she was still with my husband. She got embarrassed and got mad at my husband. My husband messaged me telling me to stop the cancellation, but I stood my ground and proceeded. When my husband got home and found out I continued with the cancellation, he called his mom to give her a heads up because if she still wants to reach her quota by next Friday, she will have to find a replacement for me. She said that because of this, we will just have to live our lives without seeing her again. If there are family gatherings, she will refuse to go if we are there. This again made my husband sad because for the first time this December, his dad will be home for the holidays. His dad works abroad and is rarely home for the holidays. So this would have been the first time in a long time that we're complete as a family. Am I the asshole? Your mother-in-law completely disrespected your boundaries and signed you up for an MLM company without your consent. It was your decision to cancel the membership and stand your ground, which is completely understandable given the circumstances. It is not fair for your mother-in-law to expect you to participate in her MLM just to keep the peace. Your husband also needs to understand your feelings and support your decision. Your mother-in-law's ultimatum and threat of refusing to attend family gatherings highlights her manipulative behavior. It is not your fault that she is choosing to react this way. Am I the antagonist for kicking my maid of honor out of my wedding with 5 days' notice? I am a 23-year-old female and my wedding is in a couple of days. Most of the events I'm going to discuss happened in the last 2 weeks. My maid of honor, 26-year-old female, let's call her M, was responsible for organizing my bachelorette party. I wanted it to be a surprise and planned for a hotel room downtown where we could have a fun night out with friends. Maybe even a brunch. Although most of the bridal party lives nearby, 2 girls had to fly in for the event. When M picked me up 2 weeks ago on Friday, I was excited to find out where we were going and what we would be doing. However, we ended up going to M's small 1-bedroom townhome and spent the entire weekend there. The 8 of us were cramped and kept running into issues because there was only 1 bathroom. On Friday night, we played games and ordered pizza. Saturday consisted of a mimosa bar, shopping, ordering food, and watching a movie before parting ways on Sunday. It wasn't the bachelorette party I had dreamed of, nor was it a particularly enjoyable weekend. But it was okay, and I still appreciated it. Last weekend, my fiancé, 32-year-old male, let's call him Jay, had just returned from a business trip. I hadn't filled him in on the details of the party because there wasn't much to report. However, when he returned, I shared the story with him. He seemed confused but didn't say anything further that evening. The following day, I received a message from M asking to meet up and discuss something. M revealed that over a year ago, Jay had given her a significant amount of money specifically for the bachelorette party. It would have been enough to cover the expenses for the entire bridal party to go on a week-long vacation out of town, including airfare, hotel accommodations, food, drinks, and entertainment. I wasn't expecting such an extravagant event. A weekend downtown would have been perfect. Although the party at her home wasn't what I had hoped for, I was still content because I got to spend time with all my friends. However, M had used the money to pay off her credit card debt secretly, hoping that no one would notice. I told her I needed some time to process the information and went home. After discussing it with Jay, I decided that the best course of action would be to remove her from the wedding. I reached this decision because I no longer felt I could trust her and didn't want her standing next to me on my wedding day. I slept on it, and the next day, I sent her a text expressing my decision. Since then, I have been receiving texts from M's mom and boyfriend, who are blaming me for my actions. They argue that I didn't need a lavish party, and M was able to benefit financially from the situation. My own mom disagrees with removing her from the wedding because M is like a sister to our family, and it would be heartbreaking for me to get married without her by my side. The rest of the bridal party is divided, with some saying I shouldn't have kicked her out, while others agree with me. M has called me in tears, explaining that she already has her dress. Jay and I paid for all the dresses, and won't be able to wear it anywhere else. At this point, I just want the wedding to be over, so that I can start my honeymoon and not have to deal with these people anymore. So do you think my actions were too extreme? M betrayed your trust by using the money intended for your bachelorette party to pay off her credit card debt without your knowledge or consent. It is understandable that you no longer feel you can trust her, and do not want her standing next to you at your wedding. Your decision to remove her from the wedding seems justified given the circumstances. It is unfortunate that her mom, boyfriend, and some members of the bridal party are against your decision, but ultimately it is your wedding and you have the right to surround yourself with people you trust and feel comfortable with on your special day. Am I the antagonist for leaving my niece's bridal shower early? One of my nieces in her 50s is getting married soon. The bridal shower was last weekend and I attended briefly. It was organized by one of her college friends, let's call her Marissa. It was unlike any shower I'd ever been to. When I arrived, my niece Kelly was sitting on a strange throne-like thing made of toilet paper. She was wearing a white dress and a tiara. Marissa and her mother Annie, my sister-in-law, immediately took gifts from people as they arrived and presented them to Kelly on her toilet paper throne to open right away, even before everyone had arrived or been offered a seat. It felt as if we were paying tribute to a royal monarch. The atmosphere was very different from any shower I had attended before. Kelly quickly opened my gift, which was an ice cream maker from her registry. She gave a brief thanks with a dismissive attitude and threw it aside, rolling her eyes. I overheard her whisper to Marissa and Annie, commenting on how cheap I had been, while I was pushed to the side for the next arrival and their gift. After that, Marissa confronted me and demanded an explanation as to why I had purchased something from the friend's registry instead of the family one. I had no idea what she was talking about. Was this some kind of rule? Nobody had informed me. The invitation listed 2 stores with registries, and I chose the more convenient option. There was no mention of one being for family and the other for friends. After expressing my confusion, Marissa insisted that I should have known and demanded that I compensate for the difference by getting a gift card to avoid further embarrassment. At that moment, my social anxiety skyrocketed. I felt like disappearing. I fought back tears and excused myself, leaving through the back door and drove home so as not to cause a scene. I didn't offer my respects or exit through the front because it was now crowded with people waiting to present their gifts to Kelly on her throne. I also didn't know what to say. Before I even arrived home, Annie bombarded me with calls, expressing her anger at my departure and the perceived tackiness of my gift, which she believed was unworthy of family. Although most others did not share her opinion about the gift, a few friends and family members have since suggested that I should have stayed and endured the situation. I didn't even realize there was a second registry until I got home. However, I discovered that everything on that registry was considerably more expensive and far beyond my budget. Since when is a shower gift expected to be significantly larger than an ice cream maker? Kelly had requested an ice cream maker, although her reaction upon opening it indicated otherwise. I failed to see how I am at fault for giving her the ice cream maker she desired, especially since it fit my budget. Regardless of the nonsense they spout about what family deserves, is it my fault for feeling extremely uncomfortable and leaving without offering my respects or any explanation? You were not aware of the existence of 2 separate registries and the expectation to buy from the family registry. The invitation did not clearly specify this information, so it is unfair for Marissa and Annie to blame you for this confusion. Furthermore, their behavior towards you was rude and disrespectful. Kelly's reaction towards your gift was also uncalled for. The fact that she openly criticized your gift and deemed it cheap shows a lack of gratitude. Your decision to leave the party to avoid further humiliation and preserve your emotional well-being was understandable given the circumstances. It is not your responsibility to tolerate mistreatment. Am I the antagonist for making my 17-year-old coworker cry by telling her she's an unwanted stepchild? I'm a 29-year-old man who works at a pizza place. Our work environment is great and everyone gets along well. We have a coworker named Betty who is 17 years old and has been working with us for a year. Betty is consistently late for her shifts, and whenever she arrives late, she immediately starts complaining about how her mom forgot to pick her up, didn't want to give her a ride, or simply forgot about her. After we close, there are many times when we have to wait for her mom to pick her up, which can be 15 to 30 minutes past her shift, or someone has to take her home with her mother's permission. Last week, Betty got her driver's license and was able to borrow her mom's car the day before. However, today she was running late because her mom had to give her a ride. When she arrived, I asked why she couldn't borrow her mom's car again, and she explained that her mom might make plans during her shift and need the car. She said this in an annoyed and upset tone as her mom couldn't let her use the car. In response, I joked that she always makes her mom sound like an evil stepmother, or that she is an unwanted stepchild. Immediately, she became upset and said, "No, I love my mom." I reassured her that I didn't doubt her love for her mom or vice versa, but I could only base my opinion on the negative things she tells us about her mom. For example, she had mentioned how her mom was supposed to pay for her prom, but used the money for herself, leaving Betty to cover all the expenses. Betty repeated that she loves her mom and that her mom raised her as a single mother after her father passed away. I simply suggested that she should try to say nicer things about her mom when she comes to work, as she tends to portray her negatively. Later, I saw her crying in my manager's office. I felt really bad for making her cry, but I wasn't sure why she was so upset when I was merely repeating the complaints she herself had shared with us. I apologized for making her cry and clarified that I didn't mean to upset her. I told her she didn't have to accept my apology, but I genuinely felt sorry for getting her so upset. She said it was okay while still crying and walked away. Now it's the next day at work, and my coworkers are all telling me that I was inconsiderate and acted like a jerk. I can understand their perspective since I made her cry, but I don't regret what I said because I was merely expressing my viewpoint based on Betty's complaints. I had no malicious intent. Am I the one to blame here? It seems that you may be the asshole in this situation. While it's understandable that Betty's constant complaints about her mother can be annoying, responding with a sarcastic remark about her relationship with her mom was unnecessary. It's important to remember that you don't have the full picture of their relationship, and it's not your place to judge or make assumptions. Betty's reaction, including crying and going to the manager's office, suggests that your comment hurt her feelings and affected her emotionally. Although you apologized, it's crucial to consider the impact of your words and actions on others. To maintain a positive work environment, it might be best to empathize with Betty, show understanding, and avoid making personal comments about her family dynamics. Am I the antagonist for not allowing my wife to access my salary and making her work 50 hours per week so that she has more money for herself? My wife, 35 years old, and I, 28 years old, have been together for 4 years and married for 2 years. We have one child together, 2 years old. My wife and I have significantly different incomes. She earns $45,000 per year working as a store manager, while I earn $250,000 per year as a computer engineer for a big company. For almost our entire marriage, we combined our finances. There was no concept of my money and her money. Both of our salaries would go into a joint account from which our bills would be paid. Afterward, some money would be put into a savings account, a college fund for our son, and a down payment for a house. The remainder would be divided equally between us in separate accounts for personal use. I usually spend my share of the money on stock trades or hanging out with friends over a beer. Most of the time, I have around 50% of the money left over. On the other hand, my wife spends the money extravagantly without much thought. She buys expensive shoes and dresses and goes to high-end spas and restaurants with her friends. She was not like this before we got married and combined our finances. I have expressed my concerns about her spending habits, but she believes she has the right to spend her money as she sees fit. She justifies her spending by explaining that she did not have many luxuries growing up and now feels the need to catch up. Since we agreed to have control over our personal savings, I dropped the issue. However, I made it clear that she is responsible for her own discretionary expenses that she cannot afford. She agreed, and we moved on. Last month, I received a notification about a $5,000 charge on our joint credit card account. I called her to inquire about this significant expense. She explained that she bought a new purse from Louis Vuitton, LV, and she didn't have enough funds in her personal account to cover it. I became furious and asked her why she didn't use her own personal credit card. She acted as if it was not a big deal. I ended the call and immediately requested my salary to be redirected to my personal account. Additionally, I locked her out of our shared savings account to prevent any further irresponsible actions. When she found out, she started crying because she felt I didn't trust her. I made it clear that trust would be reestablished when she began acting responsibly. She has a girls' trip planned in January for her friend's bachelorette party, but she can't afford it without my salary. As a result, she has been working an extra 10 hours a week to save up for the trip. She complained to her family, and they began bombarding me with messages, calling me an asshole for financially abusing her. I told them to stay out of our marriage and blocked their numbers. However, I now feel guilty for resorting to extreme measures. Am I the asshole? It seems like you have been very patient and understanding with your wife's spending habits, but her actions crossed a line by making a large expense without consulting you. It is reasonable to have expectations about how joint finances are handled, and she should have respected your agreement and used her own personal funds for discretionary expenses. Locking her out of the shared savings account and redirecting your salary to your personal account seems like a reasonable response to her actions. It is important to have trust and responsibility within a marriage, and she needs to understand the consequences of her actions. Am I the antagonist for not fighting for my daughter to be valedictorian? My son Ashton is in the 4th grade, and I share custody of him with my ex. We follow a schedule where we each have him for 1 week. However, there have been instances where she extended her time with him without giving me equivalent days in return. For example, she once took him to visit her family in another state and returned 2 days later due to flight issues. Since it wasn't her fault, she refused to compensate me with extra days. Instances like these have occurred. Ashton's school is adjacent to a park, and every Friday they have physical education, PE, there. Well, being 9 years old, he sometimes does foolish things. He decided to see how high he could climb a tree and unfortunately fell from a considerable height. As a result, he had to undergo emergency surgery on his leg and suffered a severe concussion. He spent the night at the hospital and had another surgery on Saturday. He was discharged the same day. My ex and I didn't discuss the custody schedule during this time, as our focus was on other pressing matters. On Sunday, my ex informed me that she intended to pick up Ashton to start her week. I reminded her that it wasn't feasible to move him around like that. He was still in a fog from the concussion and medication, and it would be challenging to fit a kid with a broken leg into her 2-seat Porsche. Additionally, he still couldn't bathe himself, and he adamantly refused to let his mom assist him with that. Only I was allowed to do it. I informed her that she could visit but needed to prepare for him to stay with me due to the circumstances. While she was upset, she acknowledged the validity of my argument and the doctor's orders. In short, my son stayed with me for 6 days because my ex couldn't take time off from work, whereas I was able to work from home. Our 19-year-old son agreed to assist with taking care of Ashton when there's a need for a male figure. Ashton is now able to use crutches, his concussion has healed, and he can return to school on Monday. My ex requested compensation for the 6 lost days by having 2 weeks with Ashton instead of 1. I declined her request, reminding her of the numerous occasions when I lost time due to circumstances that were not her fault, yet I wasn't compensated. It's not my fault that Ashton had an accident and she couldn't take time off, so I won't be providing any compensation. I made it clear that I won't be flexible with her when she hasn't shown flexibility towards me. Am I in the wrong here? It's understandable that you're not willing to compensate your ex for the lost days, given the history of her not compensating you in similar situations. It's important to establish boundaries and fairness in co-parenting arrangements. Your ex should understand that the circumstances were beyond your control and that the priority should be your son's well-being. It might be helpful to have a conversation with her about finding a fair and balanced approach to future scheduling conflicts. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist in the description.